Hi everyone, my name is Scott Gansky, the Director of Education here at Youth Service America. Welcome to today's webinar on effective and sustainable school community partnerships.
Hi there, my name is Susan Abravanel, and it's my pleasure to facilitate this webinar with you today. And I am VP of Education at Youth Service America. So what I'd like to go over with you is our objectives for the day. First of all, to understand the role of partnerships in a successful service or service learning project. Secondly, to identify best practices in establishing partnerships. And this will be from the perspective of multiple partners, not just you, but your partner as well. So really walking in your partner's shoes at the same time. And thirdly, once you have those partnerships, it's important to identify and understand best practices to sustain and enhance and even to replicate those partnerships, to keep them going over the long haul so that they'll keep coming back to you. So at YSA, we think that building partnerships is especially important because it meets our model, and we, within the education program, start from the focus of the teacher. The teacher is focused on teaching and learning, and the outcome for the teacher is student achievement. The teacher knows that service learning has the added advantage of providing direct engagement of young people in an issue. And so rather than focusing on the teaching piece of it, they're focusing on the young people taking ownership, the student taking ownership because of the student's own passion in what it is that he or she is learning. On the other side of the perspective is the community need. The student will chime in to become part of the experience because of the student's passion to connect with the community need, and this forms a nice little loop for the teacher to engage the community need, to help everybody go through the service or service learning process, and to come out with the student achievement outcome. Now let's take a look at from the other perspective, which is the community partners perspective. From the community partners perspective, they are facing a community need. Let's say they're an environmental community partner, so their task is to deal with enhancing, improving the environment, restoring the environment, and their ultimate outcome is to do the task so that they have a stronger community or an improved community. The typical community partner will need lots and lots of volunteers to help them achieve their mission. Their missions are often very grand, and they're constantly looking to bring on volunteers to train and to engage in the process. And so they will turn to schools because schools will have that wonderfully ready source of volunteers that they can access, and volunteers whom schools call students. And they will engage the students in the process. So, and that's how the students then become involved in the stronger community aspect. So we like to put it all together because we think that when teachers are engaging students, students really are becoming engaged because it's important to them to make a difference. That's the reason why if a teacher asks a student, why did you like this project? I liked the project because I could make a difference, not necessarily because I got a good grade in it, but really because I could make a difference. And so, too, it's important for them to see the outcomes of their work and to see the difference that they made. The community partner needs to understand, however, that the bottom line for the teacher is always going to be that student achievement goal. So you can see in this diagram right here that service learning brings both aspects of a partnership together to produce dual outcomes of stronger community and student achievement. And it's the way that you build the partnership that will help you get both of those outcomes to actually happen. So I'm going to now pose a question to the group, and I'm going to ask you to write your questions in the box. And then I will read the questions out and we can respond. So here's the question: how might a partnership benefit you? So from Samantha Lyon, we have a partnership can provide relevant place-based learning. Other examples, how might a partnership benefit you? Think about the partnerships that you have and what are you gaining from them. Okay, from Christy Nygaard, we have a partnership provides resources and opportunities that are not available in the normal classroom environment. Christy, can you expand upon that a little bit and talk about what are those resources and opportunities? And while we're waiting for Christy's response, Lynn Foster has chimed in and talked about partnerships provide experiential learning, lifting up our youth in the community. Stacy Siebert has responded that partnerships help us reach more people, get students into the community in a way that we could not in the school environment. So we're talking a lot about civic engagement here. We're talking about helping students to understand the community in a way that they normally would not. And at YSA this year, we're really focusing in on career and workforce readiness. And we're finding that it's that work in the community that is really helping young people to understand the real world situation that they will be encountering when they enter the workplace. Samantha Lyon has also responded, it provides resources, community knowledge, where students are learning from adults and peers other than their teachers. So valuable to bring other, quote, teachers and to help students understand that there are other people who can teach them that they can learn from. And so it's a mutual relationship rather than only the teacher-student relationship. And Kimberly Zwerlein has noted that a partnership gives students access to people who are working in the field of our service. So that is a very special opportunity, again, from the career and workforce outcome. Working in the field of the service gives the students who very often don't have much exposure to people in other careers, let's say, other than what their parents do or what their teacher does, it gives them opportunities so that if they resonate to the service activity, they can discover that why I could be a park ranger, or I could be an environmental scientist, or a marine biologist. And Christy has responded, Christy Nygaard again, professionals in the field of study provide knowledge, equipment, and material. So these are the resources that we were talking about. Service learning opportunities in the community are sometimes dropped in your lap rather than having to hunt them down. So this is really very rich. It is bringing out the aspect that if, in fact, you are you let it be known that you are open and willing with your partner to have your partner be a co-educator with you, these kinds of experiences will happen. So I think we're going to end this part of the conversation. We'll pick up with another conversation shortly. I have another question. The next question is your school community partnership. This is your partnership. I want to know a little bit about, those of you who are on the phone, what challenges have you encountered in finding and working with partners? So this is really dealing with how have partnerships sometimes not worked as well as you might want them to. So once again, please write your responses in the box. While we're waiting for responses, we're sometimes learning that partnerships are difficult even to initiate. Christy points out how they can drop in your lap, but sometimes they don't drop in your lap, and you kind of have to look to where you can find them. How might you be able to identify possible community partners? And what I would like to suggest is that there are tools and resources for you in our Semester of Service Strategy Guide. And I would suggest that you go to pages 26, 27, and 28 to learn about identifying possible community partners, building those school community partnerships, and most important, engaging your students in reaching out to those partnerships as well. We now have some responses, and then I'll go into some of the other resources that we have as well. So Stacy Sievert mentions that one of the challenges is that adjusting to a variety of schedules and calendars can be very difficult. This is really very true. Partners are used to dealing most often with volunteers, and so most often with adult volunteers, most often they will schedule things on a Saturday. Most often they will be available in their offices between, let's say, 8 and 4, just at the same time that young people are in school. And if you're trying to engage your students in reaching out to partners, it's going to require some negotiation as to how can the students keep in touch, how can they connect best with the partner. And this is an issue that needs to be raised up front. You're also going to probably need to try to convince the partner that your students are going to be engaging in this service activity as part of a class. It is not something that they're going to do on a Saturday, and that you as a teacher can't really guarantee that you can have the number of young people working on a project on a Saturday that you certainly can have during your class time during the week. Lynn Foster raises that when the community partners are not accustomed to working with you at risk, or working with youth at risk, I think is what you meant to write. And yes, and so that requires some really good upfront conversations about what is it like to work with youth at risk, and really reassuring the partner that you as the teacher are not going to walk away and just be hands-off, that you as a teacher are going to be there to assist. Christy points out that conflicting schedules often occur, and when schedules do work, for example, on weekends, transportation can be especially difficult. Again, something you need to talk about beforehand. Adrian points out, Adrian Delavernier points out that it seems that sometimes you have to sift through many partners because they're booked way in advance or spread very thin in the community. And so this really encourages you not to wait until the week before or 2 weeks before you want to do this activity, but to begin the whole planning process far ahead of time. So now, for example, as you're planning your semester of service, would be a really good time to talk to your partner about activities that you're going to be doing, during the month of February and March and April. Let's see. Samantha says that sometimes community organizations just want me to get them students as volunteers, and those don't necessarily match with our school needs. A lot of organizations are working on required hours model and try to entice students to participate by having them check off hours. That's not what we'd like to do. Yay, Samantha. Samantha has just described the real dilemma and a real misunderstanding of what service learning is all about. Service learning is not required hours. Service learning is a learning and teaching strategy. And it's really important then to sit down with the community partner up front and go back to that model that I just shared with you. Point out to the community partner, look, you're working on having a community need that needs to be met and helping my students meet your community need to come out with the stronger community. But look at what's on my side. On my side, on my plate is the idea of, the reality of teaching and learning and needing to demonstrate student achievement. So I don't think there's a match here unless you can help me come up with ways in which meeting your need of doing your volunteer project is actually a learning experience for my students. Let's see. Michelle McVeigh talks about after working with one partner for a year, they grew to rely on us too much and expected too much from us. I think they forgot that we are very busy high school students, that do have other activities going on in their lives. That's very interesting, Michelle. Again, that particular comment and all of these comments have one thing in common, and that one thing is communication. And it's open and direct communication right up front to meet the challenge. So let's move on. So what we're learning is that effective partnerships are collaborative. They benefit not just one partner or the other. It's not just the community getting its needs met or the school, the teacher getting his or her needs met, but they are mutually beneficial and they address community needs. They address real community needs. After all, one of the reasons why we're engaged in service learning altogether is that we are realizing that young people resonate most strongly when the problem is real that they're dealing with, when they can look at it critically, they can see it as a problem that they can deal with and that they can make a difference in. So let's just quickly go through some to partnerships and how partnerships will help youth. I'm not going to read this. I'm going to let you read these. And then let's look at the next slide, which is the other side, how partnerships help organizations. Now, we prepared these two slides for a specific reason. And the reason we prepared them is to have you, is to help you make your point, to help you get your point across. So that if you are a school, you can use the first slide to say, you know, these are the goals that we have in building a partnership with you. We're trying to teach our young people teamwork. That's a critical 21st century skill. Responsibility, role-playing, you know, but not even role-playing, reality playing, solving problems, organizing, performing specific tasks, etc. If you look at every single one of these check marks, they are all 21st century skills. And we're trying to give young people, through engaging them in the real world, real opportunities. And so we see you, community partner, as the way to do that. And at the same time, the community partner is saying, well, that's great. Now I can help meet your needs, but how can you help meet my needs? And so these are things that you can offer to the community partner, that young people can complete those needed tasks. They can solve real problems. And they can, a big one for community organizations, they can increase your visibility. Because they always want to have more people know what it is that they're doing. And even more so, they can build for your future needs by helping students engage with your organization now so that they'll think of you in the future. So an effective partnership, as you see, is clearly not one-sided. And now let's look at some of the characteristics of an effective partnership. So effective partnerships have a variety of partners. And that would get over one of the comments that we talked about where the partner became so reliant on the student group that the expectations were unrealistic with the amount of time and effort that the students had to contribute to the partner. They are characterized by frequent, regular communication. Very open, very direct. If at all possible, get your students involved in frequent, regular communication right up front. They're characterized by a shared vision, common goals, and I would say even written action plans so that everyone is on the same page. And that will lead to a shared understanding of one another's culture, assets, and needs. It's very interesting to me. I do a lot of work with partners and I do a lot of work with schools, and in each case I hear the same complaint, if you will, about the other. Each will say, schools will say, partners are so difficult to access. It's such a bureaucracy over there, I just can't break through it. And partners will constantly tell you, I cannot partner with that school. They are such a bureaucracy. There is such a gate over there. I cannot get through it. And if you want to build yourself a good, effective partnership, it's almost a multicultural experience for young people. It's helping them understand a different kind of a structure. And of course, the ultimate outcome of an effective partnership is that each will come to see the other as a valued resource. So I'm going to stop here once again and ask, I'm sure many of you have really strong partnerships and have had effective partnership experiences. What are some of the other benefits of partnerships and tips and tricks you've learned about building effective partnerships that you want to share? Okay, so a minute or so, and then we're going to move on and talk about, oh, we do have one. Okay, ways, let's see, oh, we're coming up with a bunch of them. Okay, great. Effective partnerships. The first one, Stacy Sievert has responded that they work to get key players on board, or one has to work to get key players on board first and then present to the entire organization. Great idea. Build a champion. That's a terrific idea, Stacy, to share with someone. Get one person to be your advocate within the community partner. Lynn Foster talked about having an expert knowledge base that community partners bring along with resources. And Samantha Lyon talked about setting time aside to meet and plan with lead organizers and to develop a shared goal, to develop those shared goals and ideas. Time is important. If you're doing a service learning project, this is part of your planning time, building in those partnerships. This is part of the time that you need to do that pre-planning and that relationship building. It's absolutely critical to have these answers up front. Michelle McVeigh responded, many of my students have learned leadership skills that have boosted their self-confidence when they took the lead in the communication between us and our partner. And that, yay, Michelle, that is exactly what we're trying to encourage. It's not the teacher reaching out or a coordinator at the school who's reaching out to that partner, but really encouraging the students themselves to do that. And Christy Nygaard says that I found it important to educate the partner on our population, which is a high-risk population, so assumptions are not made about certain behaviors that they may see from kids or what those behaviors might mean. And yes, that's absolutely true, whether your population is high risk or whether your population is poverty or whether your population is a special needs population. You deal with these students all day. You are hired because of your expertise in working with these kinds of young people, and community partners don't have that expertise, and this is what really is often a barrier for them. And so once again, it's that upfront reassurance in helping them meet their expectations. So let's go on. And the next slide. How do we find out who are our potential potential project partners? I didn't realize the alliteration there, in the community. So how do you begin to identify a partner? I'm looking to you for some answers. So while I'm waiting for answers to pop up on the screen, I'm going to, I don't have to wait very long at all. Lynn Foster has just responded. You can find partnerships, potential partners, through your township or city hall. Yes, Lynn, very often cities will have some kind of a volunteer coordinator, or many of our cities are cities of service. And this is a network of hundreds of cities around the country who have a commitment to engaging their population in service and who would love to have you ask them to help with their efforts, because their goal is to engage volunteers throughout the community, and that's whatever age. Randy Krieg has responded that finding partners who have a common goal for the community. Great concept. I often will talk about the example of identifying the partner by identifying who cares about the issue that the students are dealing with, and having the students work that through, brainstorm who else would care about it, and coming up with a very exhaustive list of who might have a stake in that particular issue, and then narrowing that list down by who might have resources that they are devoting to working through that particular issue that the students are interested in, narrowing that down further to who is the person that the young people need to connect with, and at the stakeholder and within that particular community-based organization, and so on. Samantha Lyon, ask your colleagues and professional or personal networks of great organizations they know of, and have the students' parents become involved in different groups or organizations. I would also suggest that you have students do some research. They know the issue that they're concerned about, and have them do some web research as to who are the organizations in their community. Once again, in the Semester of Service Guide, we have a list of possible questions that young people can rely on and amplify. On page 28, what would you like to know? And it identifies a whole series of questions that students can pose with the partners and further narrow down and build that meeting of minds between them and the partners. Michelle McVeigh says, we attended an event in our community where all of the nonprofits came together to advertise their needs and find partners. Whoa, that's terrific, Michelle. You have a very organized community, and that's quite wonderful to have that kind of a community fair or volunteer fair. And those of you who don't have that might suggest to your community partners that they inspire something like that. Christy says sometimes just a Google search on environmental activities going on in the community, i.e. a volunteer tree planting in Clark County. So that's the idea of getting young people involved, getting your students involved in helping identify those community resources. So keep going. I think we're going to go towards building the relationship, because that prior one. Okay, now when you're in the process of building the relationship, and then you need to start going through a series of questions. The first and most important question is, what do you want to know about the prospective partner? So what are some of the answers to that question? What would you want to know about your prospective partner? So Adrienne writes she wants to know if they have a shared vision. So that's a question that you need to think about framing, or need to think about getting at. Share your vision. How do they match that vision? Christy, who they supported in the last election. Just kidding. Thanks, Christy. This is good. That's a shared vision. That's great. Michelle McVeigh, what do you do? What do you need? What can teams do to help you? Yes, Michelle, that is so great, because very often we approach a partner with an assumption of what their needs are when we don't even bother to ask. And it's so much better to have them identify what it is that they need and to try to build that match. And then when you see the spark in your young people as they respond to a particular need, then you've got a good match. Ranja Krieg says, how hands-on are they willing to be with the project? That's right. This is very Randy, because the last thing we want to do is to have partners reach out to partners and then have them involved in envelope stuffing or something that is not essential to where you're trying to go with your lessons, or to the experience, the real-life experience trying to convey to your students. Trying to involve your students in. Stacy Sievert says the financial and time commitments, as well as how firm they are with standing behind the agreement once it is made. Absolutely critical. This is the bottom line here of, what are the expectations? Because if they have expectations of you and you have expectations of them, these need to come out up front. Many is the time when I've seen a partnership fall apart because the one had expected the other to provide a lot of additional staff. The additional staff was not there. It became really an onerous situation. So the next question here is, and I'm actually going to have Scott pull up both questions. What are the stages in the development of the relationship, and what are the deal breakers? And you've actually mentioned one of the deal breakers, which is the importance of clarity of expectations. What are some of the other deal breakers And what do you think are the stages in the development of the relationship with a partner? Scott just told me that's a tricky question. What I meant by that question was, how do you get to the point? Yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you, Michelle. You just answered the question. The stage of the development is getting to trust. It's getting to that point of trust. So how do you get to the point of trust? How do you build that trust? Lynn Foster responds, getting to know this, having them get to know the students, and goal setting, having them do the goal setting with young people, and planning. Boy, you guys are experts at this. I knew that. I think Michelle probably was thinking trust also as a deal breaker. So expectations, trust, follow through with commitments. Works both ways, says Christy. Making and keeping commitments, says Michelle. And this also goes for the school as well, you know, unfortunately. And you may want to let your partner know up front that you absolutely are going to be on task with them, but that unexpected things do happen in schools, and you will promise them that if there's anything, any kind of a glitch that comes up, you will let them know as soon as possible and hope to work it out. But that's the way schools are, where they will have an emergency assembly or something that will throw off your schedule. Okay, so we're going to skip ahead a couple of slides. We're going to go to YSA resources. And on our YSA.org/resources website, we have a new feature this year that are called tip sheets. Scroll through the website, scroll through the carousel, and you'll get to a compilation of tip sheets. It's got a nice little cover on it saying tip sheets. And one of the tip sheets is contacting issue experts. And this will help you view, you earlier talked about the partner really being a co-educator with you on the issue. And so this is an additional resource that helps you figure out how to contact, who to contact, and how to engage the person with you. I do want to raise, before we go to this slide, I do want to raise one other brand new resource that YSA came out with this year called Youth Changing the World, and it's also on the carousel. The nice thing about this resource is it was designed to be a companion to our semester of service strategy guide, and it was designed specifically for young people themselves. And there is a partnership section actually in that guide as well. So access that. You can download it. You can order multiple copies from us, again, from that YSA.org/resources website. So there has been much written about what is important to the school, and certainly you know what is important to the school in building a school community partnership. There is one book, this book that I'm showing right now, The Unheard Voices, that came out within the last couple of years, that actually dealt with the opposite perspective, which is what does the community partner think about building these community relationships with schools, building these relationships with schools, and what is important to them, what do they want to see and get out of it. And since we're focused on building a partnership in which each stands in the other's shoes and then therefore understands what needs to happen in order to make the partnership a win-win, I thought I would share a little bit about this. What's important to the community partner are 3 C's here. Excuse me. The first C is commitment. They're looking for a commitment from you. The second is communication. They're looking for that clarity of communication. And the third is compatibility. They're looking for a match so that what it is that they are trying to do is compatible with your goals. So that's very similar to what we talked about with shared vision. So what's really wonderful about these 3 C's is that I think we've actually covered all 3 of them from the aspect of the school needs in earlier slides. But let's continue and just go a little bit deeper into each of the 3 C's. Oops, sorry, there we go. So commitment. How might a full commitment to the community make service learning look different? According to community partners, they are looking to develop longer-term service or service learning experiences. Short-term service learning creates problems for many agencies. And one of the reasons why they really like to partner with schools is that, for example, most community partners will have to train their volunteers in order to participate fully with them. So I'm thinking once again from an environmental perspective, a community partner working with young people on a tree planting, for example, will need to go through the process of learning how, teaching how to plant the trees appropriately so that they don't have to go back after the young people have left and gone back on the school bus and replant or readjust all of the plantings. With a longer-term or repeated service learning process, first of all, students will very often arrive with the skills already, knowing how to or why to or what the particular environmental issue is and how the response should look. And secondly, they will have experience that they will come back again and again and again and do on a repeated basis. I can share with you a wonderful example here that in Oregon, I worked for a number of years with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. I was with a community-based organization there, an environmental organization, and they loved to have our students come out and do water quality testing. They actually preferred the results that students had to the results that they would get from episodic adult volunteers because it was far more consistent. The students were trained and the students had grades at the end of it, so they were really much more serious about doing a good job. And so that really speaks to that longer term and reliable and consistent commitment that community partners like to see. I'm going to do one more, and then we're going to talk a little bit. The second slide shows communication. We've talked a lot about communication during this webinar, so I thought I would just show you this slide and let you chuckle a little bit. We talked about open and direct communication. And the third, the third of the C's is compatibility, and this is a very important. Slide. Are we still on? Yeah. And the third slide about the compatibility piece is that the community partners will tell us that what's really important to them is when you as the school demonstrate an understanding of the slide that we're showing there, that other side of the picture, that they need to meet the community need, and they will say it can't just be about the student, even when there is pressure to serve students first. It's a recognition that the role of the community partner is to meet a community need. It is not necessarily to educate students. To insist upon things being set up in a certain way only for the student's gain is exploitative of the community agency and its constituency. So really what community partners are saying in their words is, again, the mutually beneficial community partnership role. So that's the last of our slides. We're now opening the again, opening the box for your questions. So while we're waiting for some of your questions, one of the things that I want to pose out there is whether any of you are working with a sponsor, in other words, a community partner that is also funding you to some degree. So, for example, are you working with State Farm, or are you working with some other that is a business or a corporation that is giving you some assistance as well? So Lynn Foster says, yes, Michigan Conservation District, Muskegon Conservation District. Samantha says, I might be working on a project funded by State Farm. What are your suggestions for that kind of partnership? Good question. If you're working on in a State Farm partnership, and all of you who are our Semester of Service grantees, our State Farm, that is a State Farm funded partnership, we would suggest that you go to the State Farm website, look for their section that talks about their community participation or corporate responsibility. Somewhere on that page, and I can send this out afterwards, if you send me an email following, I'll make sure you get it, is a link to the community specialist, and that's the title of the State Farm person, for your particular area. The website is, their website is set up to plug in your zip code, and it will pop up immediately with the community specialist for your area. And if you contact that community specialist, he or she will direct you to either the agent who is in your area who is looking for you as a partner, or to the media person who is looking to help you get additional media for your project. So that's one of the things that State Farm can do for you. Adrian says, I have a commitment from a nonprofit called Officer Snook, which promotes clean water, to donate T-shirts and supplies for students and community members who participate in our events. Terrific. Christy said, Christy's giving us a little kudos here. The kids would not have this opportunity without the support of YSA and State Farm. Thank you, as well as Washington State University, Clark County Public Utility District, and Clark County Water Resource Center. Notice, okay, so I'm going to point out that there are some really wonderful partners that Christy is suggesting, and she's brought to mind the importance of the higher ed connection. I can tell you that one of our grantees, several of our grantees, have built connections with a university or community college in their area. They're always looking to partner with K-12 schools. And in one case, for example, in Tacoma, the environmental studies class partnered with a middle school that was doing watershed restoration and decided that the middle school students needed to come up to the college on a weekly basis and use college equipment to do their water quality testing. This was a high-risk group of 8th graders, and you can imagine what a tremendous benefit it was for them to have a weekly quote-unquote class in a college setting, how that boosted their college preparation, their college and career readiness. Most of these students, by the way, had never even been on a city bus before they had this opportunity to go once a week to the college. So look to college opportunities for those partnerships. And I think with that, we're ready to round off our webinar. I thank you so much for your participation. It's always great to have these opportunities to speak with you. I'll leave this final slide up for a little bit, and feel free to contact me or to contact Scott Gansky. Both of our names are here, And we are always happy to answer any questions that you have about any aspect of service learning. Thanks so much and good evening.
Thank you.